With the new Dad's Army film, here at the Colchester History Channel, we reflect on original TV cast members of Dad's Army visiting our town. Firstly, the Vicar.
Who do you think you are kidding, Mr. Hitler, if you think we're on the run? We are the boys who will stop your little game. We are the boys who will make you think again. 'Cause who do you think you are kidding, Mr. Hitler, if you think old England's done? Mr. Brown goes off to town on the A21, but he comes home each evening and he's ready with his gun. So who do you think you are kidding, Mr. Hitler, if you think old England's done?
Thank you very much for inviting me to come here today. I feel very at home with the signature tune and my own Virgil. I mean, it's wonderful. I have to say, he's much smarter than Mr. Yateman, but the thought is there and the duster is there, so that's all absolutely right. I have to say we had a great deal of fun doing Dad's Army, and when we were on location we always had wonderful weather. So I always used to say to anybody who was organising a fete, organise it while we're away doing the location for Dad's Army. But sadly that's 20 years ago, and obviously the weather's not obeying it anymore.
We are the boys who will stop your little game. We are the boys who will make you think again. 'Cause who do you think you are kidding, Mr. Hitler, if you think old England's done?
We're joined today by the Reverend Timothy Farthing, actor Frank Williams, who was the Vicar of Warmington-on-Sea. Welcome to Colchester, Frank.
Thank you.
Do tell me a bit about Dad's Army. How did you get involved and how were you auditioned?
Well, I wasn't auditioned actually. I worked for Jimmy Perry when he was running a repertory theatre, and he was one of the writers. And when the part of the Vicar came up, I wasn't in all of them, and I wasn't in the first series. When the part of the Vicar came up, he thought of me and suggested me, and so that's how it happened. And I went in, as far as I knew, just for one episode, and then I gradually got a few more. And by the last series, I was in all the episodes.
However many episodes were created?
I think there were about 80, and I think I was in about half of them. Yeah. They seem to be finding ones at the moment that I wasn't in, but never mind.
Well, you do pop up from time to time.
Oh, I do indeed, yes.
Where were they all filmed? Were they all filmed on location or studio side?
The interiors were all done in the studio, but the location was up in Norfolk. And so, and inland, so Warmington-on-Sea was actually not on sea at all in reality, but inland in the Thetford area where there's a big army military ground, you know, that used by the army. We were allowed to go in there, and so that's where we did it. The film actually was done in Chalfont St Giles, Chalfont St Peter or something, and so that was a bit strange in there, suddenly finding an upturned boat and notices saying to the beach and so on.
So did you spend some time up in Thetford?
Yes, we did. We used to go up there for a few days before each series, do all the location shots for the whole of that series, and then fit them in the studio as and when necessary.
When you say the series, was it like a year, a particular year that you were there?
We would do 6 or 7 each year. So I think some years we did 2 lots of 6 or 7, but no, I would think it was about 6 or 7 a year, sometimes 13 perhaps, yeah.
So where did you stay in Norfolk? In Thetford perhaps?
In Thetford itself, yes. We all stayed at the Bell Hotel in Thetford, and it's a great occasion, great fun, yes.
Now, even in the film, it shows that some of the cast were fairly elderly at that time.
Yes, they were indeed. I mean, we celebrated Arnold Ridley's 80th birthday while we were doing the stage show, and yes, and John Laurie was over 82. So yes, I think actually I'll tell you something. Apart from Ian Lavender, I was the youngest member of the cast, so that tells you they were fairly old.
What about Clive Dunn?
Clive Dunn is now retired and he lives in Portugal. And I saw him last week, actually. He was over here for an event, and we were at a do together. And he, of course, was much younger than the part he played, but I have to say he's grown into it now.
Who has survived from the World War then in Dad's army? Yourself, obviously.
Yes, Ian Lavender, Clive Dunn, Bill Pertwee, and Pamela Cundell, who played Mrs. Fox, who I married to Clive Dunn in the last episode.
Oh, that's right, indeed. Hey, any stories you'd like to share with us, Frank, from the series? I'm sure there must be a million and you could write a book.
Well, I could write a book. Bill Pertwee has written a book, which is coming out soon. There's a little plug for him. And somebody else has written a book, so there are going to be 2 books coming out. One story, I think one of my favourite episodes was the Royal Train, where we were chasing up and down on one of those things on the railway line, being pursued by a train. And suddenly we realised that the train seemed to be gaining on us, and we were pumping away, and of course it was meant to be driven by Ian Lavender, but of course he can't drive a train, and the guy who was driving it couldn't see us. We really got in a terrible panic and thought, help, we're all going to be killed. However, they were in walkie-talkie thing to the cameras, so they could see what was going on, so it was all right in the end.
Are you surprised that the series is being run and rerun?
Well, certainly one never thought of it at the time. I've done a couple of the Shakespeare plays on television. Everybody said to me, oh, that'll be your pension in your old age. They'll never stop showing those. They've never seen the light of day again. But Dad's Army has gone on. I'm not surprised in a way. It's a very good series, and children like it. I mean, this is the wonderful thing. It's gone right across the age range now. You get young people who really sort of... I actually met a little girl of 3 and her father said she actually prefers Dad's Army to Postman Pat, and I think that's a pretty good tribute.
So there are repeat fees, are there?
Oh, there are repeat fees, absolutely, yes, and I'm very grateful for them.
How did you get involved here in Lexton Church?
Well, my friend I have a great friend who's the Bishop of Colchester, and I was staying with him over Christmas this year because I didn't do pantomime this year. I was in a classy straight play, so we actually had a few days off over Christmas. I was staying with him, and we both came to church here on Boxing Day, and I met the rector, and so that was how I got involved.
Frank Williams painted a picture of humour and service in Dad's Army, but what of the real Home Guard? Bill Cooper is with us. Bill, how did the Home Guard compare with the TV series Dad's Army?
Well, in the early desperate days of 1940, it really was quite like that. We had our Captain Mannerings, and everything was very amateurish. But of course, in the end, for the last 18 months of the war, we were solely responsible for the defence of this island, although we didn't know that at the time.
How did you join up, and when was it?
It was in the summer of 1940. France had just collapsed, and everybody was tensed up, and they put a notice up in the works at Ransom and Rapiers, where I was working as a young draftsman at the time, stating that we were going to form a group of LDVs, local defence volunteers, which is what the Home Guard was called then. And I put my name down and promptly forgot about it. A few days later, somebody said, you're on tonight, Cooper. And I said, what do you mean? Well, he said, you put your name down for the LDV, didn't you? I said, oh, yes. He said, well, you better turn up at the Works Lodge on 7 o'clock tonight. So I did, and I'd got a light dove grey suit on, most unsuitable, really. But we had an armband, LDV armband, and I was given a rifle, an old-fashioned American rifle, and 2 rounds of ammunition. I didn't know how to load the rifle, and I couldn't have shot myself if I wanted to. But we did have a bayonet each, and I was given this rifle, and they said, guard the docks. So we duly went out. I had as a companion an older chap, I was 22 at the time, an older chap who had had some experience in the First World War. and we were standing on guard together. It was a beautiful, clear moonlight night, and you could see quite clearly. And about 2 o'clock in the morning, we heard some couple of figures approaching, and there were two men in bowler hats. And my companion shouted, "Halt!" And they stopped, and he said, "Who are you?" And they said, "Well, we're railway officials. We've come to look at a crane down at the end there." This was 2 o'clock in the morning. And he said, "Advance and be recognised." And they approached, and they were shaking like leaves, both of them, because I was standing there holding my bayonet at their chests, and the bayonet was glinting in the moonlight. And they produced their papers, and these papers had got their photographs on and that, so we let them go. Well, nothing else happened, and then I went home and had to get to work at 8:30 in the morning, and well tired as if we were 5 minutes late after being out all night. Well, that more or less ended my service there, because I was transferred to Worcester, Malvern, near Worcester, to flight refuelling run by Alan Cobham, because I was a draftsman, and that was very interesting. And a new platoon was formed called the Worcester Mobiles. They were mobiles, and we had a bus with the glass taken out, and a couple of lorries, and a Smith's mortar, and a couple of heavy machine guns and things like that. And our commander was actually a bank manager. He was not captain. He wasn't a captain. He was a Major Stone, and he was quite a good chap. He wasn't a bit like Mannering. He was more efficient than that. But we used to go out on manoeuvres, and we were out all night sometimes in the pouring rain. And we were attached to the 7th Worcesters, the regular brigade there, and they were at Norton Barracks, and that was our badge. It says "Honi soit mal e pens" or something. It's Latin, I think, for evil to he who thinks evil.
What happened at war's end, Bill? Were you all disbanded, or did life
Yes.
carry on?
And by that time, of course, I said we'd been entirely responsible for the defence of the country, because all the regular troops were committed to the other side, and we had been throwing bombs and all sorts of things by that time, rocket discharges and things. And finally it came, I think it was in the late autumn of 1944, when it was obvious that the war was running our way, and it was decided to disband us. And we turned up, and we were formally disbanded after a few speeches, and then we had a sausage supper at a local pub, and from then onwards we didn't see one another hardly, except met them about the street, and that was about all really.